Alright, and we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to session number 10 of The One Ring, presented by Blades and Blasters. I'm Bo, the game master of this game. With us tonight is Wanderer playing Targon the Tall, and Zypher playing Baranor. The Short. I don't know what the second part of his name is. Brother Baranor.
Baranor the Swift.
Baranor the Swift. He's a Swiftie. He's a Swiftie. And our campaign name is Of the Rings of Power and the Ruin of Numenor. Hopefully this will be a several-part campaign, but the first part probably will end tonight. And without further ado, here we go. Let's see. We are going to go to Lindon for the first time. Mythlond. Activate. Tell me if you guys can see.
Yep.
Good. Here we go. Chapter 10, Introduction. Even before the tall sails of Numenor were visible over the horizon, Gil-galad, High King of the Noldor, was aware of their coming. Yes, there were dreams. Certainly there were portents, but now the elf descends from his high tower in the Grey Havens. His eyes are fixed upon the sea. A bearded elf appears at his side. "They sail from the land of gift," says Círdan to Gil-galad. "They bring ill tidings, no doubt." Gil-galad turns to him. There is a shadow of a smile on his serene face. "Do the years lie so heavy upon you that you do not hold a place for hope in your heart? Have the men of Numenor been anything but reverent to the west?" "Certainly," answers Gil-galad's ancient friend. "For now. But the lives of men are but fleeting things. A rainbow that fades, a sunset that lasts only a moment. They will soon forget the glory of the west, and their small minds will be consumed by fear, jealousy, and greed." Gil-galad replies. His elven gaze wanders west over breakers. It spies gulls, rolling clouds, and the bright masts and sails of the ships of Westerness. "You had your hope, Círdan. You are older even than I, and I remember the Edain, and they did not falter even when all seemed lost in Beleriand of old. The star of the House of Baor will rise again, but we must first brave the shadow, even if it is the death of us." Hours later, Prince Aldarion of Numenor sits under a ring of golden trees, in a grove lined with green. The air is sweet and light. "Círdan the shipwright is correct," he says. "I do bring ill tidings." Círdan looks to Gil-galad even as the prince continues. "The ancient enemy of the Noldor, and indeed the Edain, has risen again in the east. It is Sauron. We are sure of it." "How can this be so?" says Gil-galad. "Was not the lieutenant of the Dark Lord diminished when Angband was broken?" "Diminished," says Aldarion, "but not utterly defeated." He hangs his head. "There are those upon the Isle of Numenor that doubt as you do. But men I trust, men of the House of Nimruzir, have paid dearly for this information, and their valor is known widely in Westerness." "Then send word to Ost-in-Edhil," says Gil-galad. "Galadriel and Celebrimbor dwell there, and their wisdom is unsurpassed. Let them turn their gaze to the east, and ascertain whether the danger of this new enemy that lurks in the shadow is real. If indeed Sauron has returned, then his disease must not be allowed to fester." And so it was that with the knowledge of the Dark New Lord was brought to the elves of Eregion, and so also it was that the stage would be set for the first of many great events that would shape Middle-earth in its second age. And so it was that Targon, spending many long years in Middle-earth, eventually returned home, and returned to Middle-earth again with his prince Aldarion. And so it was that a plan was made for Aldarion to return to his ship and sail down the coast in a southward direction to Vignalande and then up the Anduin to where this nameless quote-unquote kingdom of men now had been established. But Targon he appointed to travel with certain other elves overland to Eregion into Ost-in-Edhil in order to seek the counsel of Celebrimbor and Galadriel, who dwelt there. But backing up a little bit, I'm going to let Targon tell his tale of years and what has transpired in the many years between our last session of this campaign and now. So go ahead.
Thank you. After the brothers parted ways, Targon travelled eastwards, slaying orcs wherever he found them, but for every one he killed there were 10 more, seemingly endless. But still he moved further eastwards, searching for the heart of the darkness that lay over these lands. But his journey ended in sorrow, for orcs ambushed him while he slept, dragged him away to the old abandoned tower where they laired. There he endured great pain and torment at their hands over many a long month, body wasting away under their cruelty and ill treatment, even as the faint spark of hope remaining in his heart stuttered and went out. Eventually they tired of him and planned to finish him off, but he was so diminished that their caution, their regard, their estimation of his will to escape dwindled, and they let down their guard. And one night he did escape, killing them all in their sleep, much as they'd ambushed him in his. And he travelled back into the west with a renewed sense of purpose. Not hope, but purpose, for they had let slip in their talk amongst themselves, talk of a new master, talk of what the shadow was that was lying over these lands. Sauron, the lieutenant of Morgoth, great enemy of old, had survived and returned to these lands, and it was him who was casting a shadow over everything. Bearing this knowledge, Targon travelled back further west. He first of all stopped by to see his brother, Baranor. But the meeting was short and awkward. Targon now looked old beyond his years, wounded by sword and arrow and many long weeks of torture. But also he was more weighed down by the shadow than ever. Still, some spark of determination remained with him, and he eventually found his way back to the west, to Numenor. He brought news to his prince, and then was sent home to recover. And his body did recover, and regain some of his strength and vigour of old, but his heart never did. Out of duty he took a wife, but the union was bitter and loveless, a joining of families rather than hearts. The shadow lying on Targon's heart left him little room for joy, even later at the birth of 2 children. When word came that Aldarion meant to return to Middle-earth, take word to the elves, Targon leapt at the chance, eager to test his blade against orcs once again. For home holds no comfort for one whose mind is fixed on thoughts of darkness and death. And that, I think, brings us pretty much to where we are now. He is travelling with the prince, and he has proved his bravery, and his strength of old has returned. But those who look into his eyes see little hope, only determination.
And as the scene fades, the sun is also fading as it fades into the west over the sundering sea, gulls in the distance circling overhead in bright clouds. And it is now that Targon sets out overland even as Aldarion returns to the sea. And in Targon's company are 3 elves that may appear familiar to him. For many years ago, along the Guathalo, these elves of Ost-in-Edhil are paid a visit to Targon and his brother Baranor. Gwengil, Henethon, and Umon greet him, and they say, "May Gavanen, Targon the Tall," says Henethon. "I did not think that I would see your face again, for the lives of men are short and ours are long. And we are... And the gift of Iluvatar comes often for thee, whereas we are destined to roam this Middle-earth until the end of days, or until violence takes our life. It will be good to have the company such as yourself on this travel. It is a long journey across the region to Ost-in-Edhil, but I do think you will be glad company. Please, tell me tales of Westerness, and pray tell of what befell your brother Baranor. Where does he dwell these days?"
And Targon makes the polite response to their greeting, and but they probably noticed that whereas last time they met he was delighted, almost enchanted to meet them, absolutely enthralled by the elves, who for so long had been a feature of his favourite tales. Now he smiles, but the smile doesn't touch him. He's polite enough, but when they say glad company, he shakes his head.
"Come now, Targon the Tall," they say. "The hearts and minds of men are not meant to be touched by such sorrow. Perhaps time in our company, and a bit of Lembas, will lift your hearts and your spirits."
And he nods, says, "I thank you for your courtesy and your generosity. I think I have seen too much to have my spirits lightened so easily. All that is left to me is a determination to rid the world of the shadow. The chance of another life has been taken from me."
And as the 4 of them set off to the south and the east, the sun fades and the camera pans up over mountains and green countryside and untamed valleys, meadows strewn with flowers and waving green grass, and the camera pans across Middle-earth, across mountain spines and rushing rivers, small villages of men and other creatures that are hidden to men, until at last we come to the eastern bank of the Anduin. Perhaps some days hence, and we come to Baranor, and we are to be told of Baranor's tale of years, and what has transpired. I'm going to activate that. Hopefully you guys can see this.
Yep.
Very good.
Yep.
And Zypher, I'll let you take away what has happened with Baranor in the land of the unnamed kingdom, the kingdom with no name, which now has received a name, as it has not perished, even though raid after raid has come from the east. And times have been certainly difficult, and I'll let you outline how difficult it has been. But this kingdom now goes by the name of Emyn. Oh no, let me find it. What did I say? Emyn Arnen. Yep. There we go. Take it away.
Oh. So, many years have passed when, when Baranor and Targon parted. Baranor chose to stay by the side of King Oscar, serve him against his fight of the Orc, serve him to strengthen his kingdom and bring peace to the lands. There were many Orcish raids that Baranor had taken part in. Slowly, his valor and the tale of his valor started growing in the company. Prince Brimban started following Baranor around, and under Baranor's tutelage, learned the way of the sword. Eventually, Oscar passed due to age and illness, and Brimban, the prince, became Brimban the king. I, Baranor, married Brimban's sister, Bronwyn, and I had 2 children, Caladan and Cadwyn. Much of the time was spent in peace. The land flourished. Every orc raid we went on was successful. There were travelers from far and wide that could still make their journeys without being harassed or harried. It was a peaceful time. And in one of those nights of peace, there was a knock at the door, and it turned out to be Targon. Baranor had heard of Targon and his conquests in the east, and for long the stories had talked about this outlander laying waste to orc hordes. And then the story stopped. Baranor went to the east, searching far and wide for Targon, but never to find him. He had given up hope. He had thought his brother was lost, and that evening his brother stood at the door. The meeting was short, and Baranor couldn't come to terms with his brother again given that chance. He was glad to see he was alive, but there was something different about him, that his time in the east, Baranor couldn't come to terms with the darkness that he saw. He knew Targon was leaving, was going back home. He knew that maybe the last time he was going to see Targon. But still, he couldn't get himself to make terms with him. Many years since then have passed. The years changed over time. They seemed to have like a curse on the land. Fields wouldn't grow, wouldn't produce as much as they had the season before. The weather was unpredictable. There were sudden chills in the air when least expected. And the Anduin itself flowed erratically. Sometimes it was flooding torrents, and in some years it was just like a trickle. Eventually, crops started dying and famine started setting in the land. Baranor lost his daughter and wife to disease as the famine spread. The kingdom was starting to become weak. It seemed like a shadow was now upon it. Every orc raid was getting to be costly. More men and kinsmen were dying in a battle of attrition. It was as if a grace over Baranor and his life had left the land. He never could quite place it until this sad, grey evening that he is sitting at his doorstep. He puts it together how he realizes that the days after following his brother leaving Middle-earth, his troubles grew. And now Baranor sits there, an old man, tried and tested by time, son out, fighting orc, trying to keep the land safe, replaying the same fate his father once faced. Baranor sits there thinking about what the future brings him.
Very excellent. And on one afternoon, as Baranor sits pondering, sits stewing, sits brewing, the cloud of negative motion over his head, King Bramban walks into the chamber. It's dimly lit with sconces flickering in the corners, casting dark shadows about the room that harshly fall over Baranor's face. The room lit in shades of orange and red. King Bramban, to all appearances, appears the same age as Baranor now. For the ancient kings of the Edain of the East, the ancient kingdoms, the lives of men were short. They certainly were not long to the extent of the Numenorians, and Brimban approaches Baranor. You sit brooding, Baranor. You have raised me for all intents and purposes. It has been decades since my father died. I consider my father in all ways, but in ways of birth and lineage, and it pains my heart to see your soul sinking so low, to see the shadow of sorrow upon your brow, Baranor. Is it Westerness that chides you? Do you wish to return home? Do you wish again to see the light of your brother's eyes, to see the shores of Numenor, to see the gulls flying towards your ship as you approach that wondrous isle? Wish that I could see such sights, but I have grown old, Baranor. And unfortunately, even in your long years, so have you. But I once again seek your aid. Your prowess in the martial arts has only increased. Scouts have returned from the north and to the east. More refugees come from Rune. Yes, I know that some in our kingdom refuse to give them aid. Crops falter. We have no food. Even the water in Anduin the Great is at days but a trickle. But in my estimation, Baranor, we have too few men. We must welcome aid from the east as they arrived. I once was one of their number, fleeing the Iron King that holds all of Rune under his steel boot. Come hither. We ride, Baranor. What say you?
Brimban. You are the light in these dark days that surround me. Age has taken hold of me and I sit here purposeless. My son brings me credit, but I see my days growing shorter and dimmer, and I do not wish to sit by and idly and let it pass me. No, I want one last fight. I would like to see my brother one last time. I fear now he may recognize me as I may recognize him. I think the life we have led has taught us many a great lesson that both of us did not anticipate and maybe not have received at the same time. But I do wish to gaze upon my brother again. Till then, I am at your service. Come, let's secure the refugees from Rune.
hopefully your internet doesn't disconnect, but tell me what it looks like as you and a couple dozen knights of Emyn Arnen ride north out of the city gates.
Yeah, so Baranor is in like full battle armor, and behind him are kind of like a squadron of cavalry that he's leading. There's this road, like it's dimly lit. There's just small lanterns people have lit along the way. There are people just sitting by the road, resting. Some are sleeping. They clearly are carrying a burden with them, and the road is littered, just rows and rows of people making their way back towards the kingdom. The sight is grim, but Baranor feels one final purpose. Maybe it's his one last attempt to push the shadow back.
And as you ride far, far, far to your right, to the east, rising above the mountains of shadow, many leagues across the plains, you see a dimly illumined column of putrid smoke rising from Orrow's ruin. And we move again. This time to a new location. We're going to follow Targon as he arrives in Ost-in-Edhil. You guys should be able to see this, hopefully.
Yep.
And we got Targon here. We have your elf friends. Make you guys a little bigger. There we go. So 2 weeks prior to that meeting of King Brimban and Baranor, you and your elven companions make your way through a region, through fields, down small rivers, across low hills, high hills, and even mountain ranges, until in the distance you spy Ost-in-Edhil. It is a fortress city. You've seen Numenor, Targon, and it is certainly a thing of beauty. The men of Westerness are famed for their engineering and their technical prowess. And even though they're not at their height of their power, there certainly are artists in the science of architecture and whatnot. But this city of the elves, nestled in the mountains between two rivers, is one of the most beautiful cities you've ever beheld. And as you walk on a stairway up into the city, you notice that the stonework is new. It's probably less than a couple dozen years old. It's white and gleaming and with veins, marble veins and gold kind of running through the sidewalk. And the elves kind of greet you as you walk with your elven companions, as you were expected. It's a homecoming for Gwyngal and Henathon and Uman. And so they're glad to be home. But you yourself have been tasked to meet with Celebrimbor and Galadriel herself to tell them of the new shadow that rises in the east. Tell me what that looks like.
Yeah, I presume that I've also got a letter from Aldarion, so I'll be...
Yeah.
So Targon makes his way through the reaches of the city. He's taking in all the sights and noting it with some surprise. Seeing something made by elves that is also so new is a strange experience for him. But it doesn't lift his spirits. Nothing really does. And knowing the importance of the letter he carries, he travels with purpose. And he walks purposefully through the city, getting closer and closer to the. I guess there'll be a palace or citadel or something at the center, and there he talks briefly to the guards and then enters. Until finally he's told to wait in an antechamber where he sits with the letter. No, he doesn't sit. In fact, he's too restless. He paces, holding the letter and going through in his mind what he'll say.
As you wait at the chamber, Gwingel and Hethan and Uman have left to meet with their kin, and so you are alone. Whether you feel utterly alone or not is for you to say, but you certainly are very aware of the timeless nature of this place, of the unhurried nature of what the elves operate, as if they have eternity to do what they're going to do. You see one or two playing the harp in the hallway, others are reciting poetry, and others are reading books, or even locked in heated debate and argument of a good nature. And that's when a door opens and an elf arrives. He's the only elf you've seen whose hair seems to be singed at the ends. His hands are dirty. There is soot beneath his nails, and beneath his left eye is a smudge. This is Celebrimbor. This is the legendary smith of Eregion. And he arrives. Well met. And you must be that man from Numenor. What is your name?
My name is Targon, if it please you.
Yes. Yes, I've been all too absorbed in my work as of late. The anvil rings loudly and the hammer falls. There is magic to be made, implements of beauty, not of war. The rumor is you bring whispers of war and of conflict to my lady's court, is that correct? Galadriel is ancient and wise, but it has been many long years since she drew her elven blade in defense of Beleriand. Is it true what they say? A new shadow has risen in the east.
Sadly, yes, those are the tidings I bring. And with a missive from my prince, confirming the same. I am sent as messenger, for I have heard this from the mouths of the servants of the shadow themselves. They speak of the Lord of Wolves, as he was once known. Sauron, once greatest servant of the enemy, now grown to power in his own right.
Give me either a lore or courtesy.
Okay.
As much as I would like to make believe the entire session, we might have to roll some dice.
I refuse. Okay.
Zypher would be pleased.
Just fail. I mean, and here we go.
That
Here we go.
was favored too, man.
Classic Targon.
Dude.
Classic.
That works. Completely works, because Celebrimbor, he didn't believe you.
Yeah.
Of course. Of course. Do you know not, Targon, the call that in the east, the kingdoms of men, in my long lifetime, not to mention the lifetime of Lady Galadriel, who witnessed the light of the trees, do you not know that the kingdoms of men rise and fall as often as the seasons, at least to mine eyes? Certainly you laid eyes on the latest tyrant, or the latest magician, the latest sorcerer, who means to put other humans, other men and women underneath his own heel, in shackles. Such things can be mistaken for Sauron, for the Lord of Wolves in your eyes, I'm sure, but I will not believe you if you do not take offense until I see such thing with mine own eyes. But alas, Galadriel is even wiser than myself, though I surpassed her in the art of... And you kind of hear, as he finishes his sentence, you can hear the forge down below just explode. You hear the sound of hammers ringing. The art of smithing implements of peace and beauty.
And Targon's mouth sets in a tight line. Teeth grind slightly. It's almost like he's counting to 10 under his breath, and he gathers himself and then replies, I wish that I and my people were afforded the time and the peace to make such instruments of beauty, such things of peaceful times. But I think it is incumbent upon us all to recognize when the times of peace have come to an end, sad though it may be. And there is no greater gift to an enemy than to sit with our gaze focused on things of beauty, things of peace, when war is at our doorstep. And then he bows his head.
Yeah, that's when you sense a presence behind you. Like you know how you can tell when somebody's looking at you. You sense that somebody's like even taller than Targon the Tall. And as you turn around, it is a fair-haired and beautiful Galadriel.
And Targon bows low.
I appreciate your courtesy, men of Ost-in-Edhil. I see you've already met Celebrimbor. Celebrimbor is wise in his own way, but I am inclined to believe you, Targon the Tall of Ost-in-Edhil. Celebrimbor, you may not remember, but there were those in the first age of this world, this first age of Arda, that felt Morgoth, the Dark One, the great enemy, would never escape from his prison as Angband. Do you not remember the legions of elves that held him at bay for hundreds of years until he broke free in the Dagor Bragollach? It was there I lost my brothers, Celebrimbor, so I'm not inclined to make the mistake of waiting on our haunches again. Celebrimbor replies, I meant no offense, Lady Galadriel, but we have made a home here, and it is a beautiful home indeed, full of prosperity and beauty. Such beauty has not been seen since the days of Beleriand. She kind of laughs at him, not mockingly in a good-natured way, but she's like so ancient. You have not seen Gondolin, Celebrimbor. Speak not of beauty, for such things reside only in mine memory. Targon, you will have your envoy to the east. And she kind of looks to like she probably has been sent a messenger that, has the plan. She looks down and says, Celebrimbor, if you do not believe Targon the Tall, then perhaps you will believe your own eyes as you have said. Please, accompany him to the east, across the great river Anduin, towards the mountain of Shadow, and towards the land of Rune in the east, where this new shadow is. said to have arisen. What say you, Targon? Would you like the company of Celebrimbor here? He no doubt will teach you many things on the long trip to, and she looks down at the scroll, Emyn Arnen.
And as soon as she spoke, Targon bowed low, and as he sort of raises his head again, he looks to Celebrimbor and says, I would be glad of such esteemed company. If Lord Celebrimbor will forgive my rough words, I am a soldier, not used to the ways of court, and I have seen too much of darkness to speak easily when it is dismissed.
Galadriel laughs again, but Celebrimbor takes her up on the offer. Well, it just so happens that I am at an impasse in my labors. Perhaps some time beneath the stars and beneath an open sky, Targon, would do me well. If you would have company as one such as myself. Do pardon me, Galadriel and Targon. I am all too set in my ways. I work with ore and stone and precious metals and jewels. Unforgiving, unrelenting things, and I fear my personality is all too reflective of those materials.
Targon inclines his head towards him and says, Your skill is legendary, my lord. I have no skill in these rough hands. He kind of holds them out, and his hands are scarred. They've actually kind of been broken several times and healed when he was being tortured by the orcs, and they don't quite flex the way they used to. They're obviously really, his hands aren't right, and he holds them out and says, I have little skill in these hands, but they will hold a sword. And perhaps in these times that is service enough. I hope indeed for times when beauty and the craft that a true master like yourself can produce will be more valuable than what hands like these can make. And I hope those times come again.
Galadriel, with her white flowing robes, approaches you, and she doesn't kneel, but she kind of bends over to be on your level, and she takes your hands in hers and cups them beneath her smooth skin. And you look at her brilliant rings on her fingers, or some delicate gold bracelets on her left hand, and she looks up into Targon's eyes and she says, These hands, Targon, have been broken, but alas, now they are mended. They are mended with the wisdom and the light of the Noldor. And you feel the pain and the scars kind of lead your hand, and as she kind of removes them, the scars aren't gone, but they're certainly less noticeable, and your hand seems to have that youthful strength and vigor as of old. And she says, You will need much strength on your journey, Targon. For I believe you, and against the shadow you will strive. Celebrimbor, go with this man. Even if you do not bring victory, you will bring insight and wisdom. I will not be caught unawares again. No rushing rivers of fire will destroy Ost-in-Edhil. This realm will survive into the end of days. And so she sets Celebrimbor and Targon out on maybe one of his last journeys and adventures, south of Ost-in-Edhil towards Emyn on the eastern banks of the Anduin. And I'll let you paint the scene as you and Celebrimbor and several other elves set out from Ost-in-Edhil on your way to the last kingdom of men in Middle-earth.
Targon is very, very grateful for what Galadriel's done, and but he kind of trips over his words a little bit and realizes it's time to be moving on. And he leaves with Celebrimbor, and he's not the best company, but he is polite. He kind of sets his expectations to allow for the fact that Celebrimbor is he's a Noldor noble. He's ancient and possesses a great skill that's kind of set him aside from most people of Middle-earth, but also a different perspective, a longer perspective. And Targon at times has felt that some of the shorter-lived men just don't quite get it. They don't quite have the right perspective on events, and he realizes that Celebrimbor must have that to just a much greater extent. So he kind of sets his expectations to expect some unintended slights, and sets out to be polite company. He's never going to be light company, but he can be polite, courteous. He focuses all his attention on that and keeping them safe. So as they make their way, he tries to make polite conversation in a slightly awkward way.
Give me courtesy.
I said awkward, right?
You can use this to inform your relationship with Celebrimbor as we move throughout the session. But
yeah,
for now, we're going to move east again to a day's ride north of Arnen, as King Brimban and Baranor, along with their small force, go to meet the refugees. Let's see here. Here we go. Yeah, boy. I'll let you paint the details of the scene, but Baranor, you're rotating. You hear the sounds of battle and of death and destruction before you crest the hill, but as the sun starts to fade, you see a train of refugees being attacked by what look like wargs. A day's ride north of Emyn Arnen. And so you see, like, from the top of your hill with your couple dozen men, wolves kind of encircling a band of what look to be humans, but then you see also two very tall and fair forms with gleaming swords just kind of dashing forth and retreating and holding these wargs at bay. You hear the clashing of swords and the snarls of wolves as you approach.
Yeah, so as Baranor is cresting the ridge with his men, before he sees, he kind of hears it, like screams being carried on the wind, and then he kind of smells this putrid burning smell coming from again wafting over the wind and the breeze, and then he crests the hill and he sees wargs surrounding what looks like gleaming swords in the sunlight, refugees running all over, some being chopped down by wargs. Just pure pandemonium and chaos. There's still bodies everywhere strewn. Some are trying to crawl away. Some are just lying still.
King Brimban, along with the knights on horseback, kind of crest the ridge and see below as the light starts to fade. They see one of the fair-haired figures kind of go back to their camp and grab a torch of fire and kind of wave it in front of them, and the wolves kind of retreat for a while. Then they attack her again. One of them like kind of grabs on their arm until she produces a dagger and just sticks it in the throat, and the wolf just falls down, kind of dead, wounded, flopping around on the ground just pitifully. King Brimban says, "Alas, Baranor, we are too late. We should turn around and go home."
No. There is still fight. Look at that person holding the wargs at bay. We must assist. We have enough on our side. We can turn the tide of this battle. For too long, we have stepped back.
But we have no knights, Baranor. Men of fighting age are few and far between in Emyn Arnen. And these people we save are not fighters. They have more mouths to feed, Baranor. I wish I was as brave as my father, Oscar. But little fight remains in me, Baranor.
Brimban, my friend, we have spent many a day and evening in each other's company. We have slain our hordes of orc. We have broken the will of the shadow and sent it back. And Emyn Arnen was safe for that. Then we became complacent. We let peace soften us. And then every fight we would always step back. No more, young Brimban. Remember the day of old. You are brave, my king. Remember your bravery. Feel the strength of your sword. Do not let these refugees fail in seeking aid from you. If this is be our day, then so be it, in the service of people who cannot defend themselves. Ride with me, king, ride with me.
And he sits tall on his horse and raises his blade, the same blade that was wielded by his father, King Oscar. The words of Westerness lighten my heart, Baranor. For Emyn Arnen, ride forth and slay these foul beasts. Baranor, give me an awareness roll.
Awareness, here we go. Oh no! Shit!
No. Yeah, so tell me what it looks like as unawares to you. I'm not going to make you roll for this. So what happens is like some wolves have kind of gone around behind you guys, and one of them just runs and using his great leap fell ability just leaps up and grabs you off of your horse and knocks you to the ground. As you go rolling, you come to grips and you see the snarling maw in front of you.
Ah, you snuck up on me. Well, that's the last time you would sneak.
A generated actor. Alas.
It's not a real wolf, it's just an actor.
It's just a generated actor.
Generated actor. Chat GPT wolf.
There we go. Now let's say now. Wild work. There you go. All right. Let's go. I want to add him to the queue here. Combat state. Why don't you add yourself, and I'll let you go first.
Wait, how do I do that? Man.
I'll do it. Don't worry about it. I added you, and we're going to skip the opening volley, and we're going to begin combat. So you pick your stance and you go.
Yeah, open, right? Open is like forward is the most.
Forward is the most dangerous. Yep.
Yeah. Open. I'm in open.
Make sure you have all of your health back and stuff.
Yeah.
You should.
I should. Okay. Can I attack?
Oh yeah, it's your turn.
Oh, sorry. Long sword.
So just yep. Longsword, great success. Ooh, that's very good. Deals 13 damage. That might be enough to kill him. Right click, apply damage, and that kills him. Tell me what it looks like, son.
Yeah, so, as this warg kind of sneaks up on him and knocks him off the horse, Baranor says, "Oh, you snuck up on me." Well, that would be the last thing you sneak up on. And as the warg kind of, obviously doesn't understand what Baranor is saying, mindlessly attacks and jumps at Baranor. Baranor sidesteps, and brings the sword slashing down, beheading the warg midair.
Dead. And you see Brimban and the mounted soldiers still kind of all run down the hill towards the Easterling refugees, and they kind of slam into all the wolves, and their swords and spears are flashing, and you see dark blood sprays filling the air. More than one man is dragged from his horse. You see kind of down to the bottom of the hill with your Numenorian eyes, one of the wolves grabbed the man by the throat, and he screams, "No! No! No!" and just gets his throat ripped out, and two other wolves grab his legs and drag him off behind a bush, and you hear him scream as his bowels are ripped from his belly. No! 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 And roll a d3. /R 1d3. Good for you. Another one of these bad boys. Another generated actor. And I'm going to add him to the combat thing, and it's your turn again. You turn around, and there are like dozens of these things like all around you, Baranor. How do you react?
Baranor looks around and smiles. This is what I've been waiting for.
Your turn again.
Okay, I'm in open stance.
Yep.
And let's see how this one goes. Oh, 1 minute. Here we go. What? Oh.
Remember, you have to target it. That's the...
Yeah. No. I had to remove the old target. That's all.
Yep.
Should do it.
Another one.
I'm assuming I killed that as well, right?
Yeah. That's what it looks like.
So, as Baranor beheads this warg, he kind of turns around and sees more glowing eyes in the dark, and then from the dark, one more warg steps out in front. More of you, dogs. Well, tonight is the last time you breathe and sully this land with your filth. And again, as the warg leaps to attack him, he sidesteps and basically kind of brings beneath the belly and kind of splits it in half. The warg flies off and lands in a heap.
As you look down below, you see that Brimband's forces has kind of penetrated the lines of the wargs, and they're in there fighting. But Brimban is being encircled by some more generated actors. I can change this real fast. Generated actor. Wolf Chieftain. Update. And this one is Hound of Sauron. Update token. And those two fair-haired folks you see down below. One of them is this guy here. And one of them is a female. Who always for everyone. Lithilian. Yep. So these two fair-haired, they look like elves to you. Like they're slaying wolves left and right, but King Brimban is like getting surrounded. What do you do?
Baranor sees this and realizes the grave danger Brimban is in. The hounds that surround him seem larger and have a different kind of stance about them. And he starts charging down the hill towards Brimban as fast as he can.
You start to charge down the hill. You hear your horse in the background neighing with fright. And your horse just... let me see if he runs away. He runs away. Yes, he runs away. He flees the battlefield, but you have your bravery with you. You run down the hill towards King Brimban when you hear him shouting again. For Emyn Arnen! For Emyn Arnen! The hounds of Sauron are upon us! Show these refugees the bravery of the men of Emyn Arnen. And you are faced with this hound of Sauron, and it seems to you as you come face to face that he speaks. And he says, "Flee to the west, men of Numenor. You are not wanted here. I will litter this ground with your entrails, and mine kin will feast upon your bowels."
You may try, but the men of Numenor are not easily frightened by a barking dog.
He leaps of you right away, and I'm going to add him to the combat. What do you do?
This time attack again.
Hey, you've had good luck so far.
So far, yep, why not?
Let me see what he has. He has some good. Oh, hang on a second. He wants to use Strike Fear. Let me see what that does.
Sure.
Let me see what that is. Strike Fear. Alright, Strike Fear. Spend 1 hate to make all player heroes in sight gain 2 shadow points. Those who fail their shadow test are daunted and cannot spend hope for the rest of the fight. Ooh. So make a shadow test.
How do I do that?
That is, easiest way to do it is probably off of your sheet. That is a wisdom.
Okay. Can I use hope for that?
You can.
Gonna use hope for that.
Great. Tell me what that looks like as you are undaunted by the shadow.
Yeah, he just like stands there and kind of there's blood kind of oozing down his blade after beheading the two wargs, and he says, "If I'm at this long enough, your blood and these blood of these other wolves will not matter. Filth is still filth."
Filth is still filth. Attack. Make your attack.
Okay, so here we go. Targeted. Let's do this. I'm gonna use a bonus hope die this time. Success.
Try to success. Apply damages. Yeah, it takes a good hack out of him. What does it look like as you wound this guy?
Yeah, so he says that, and he kind of tries to enrage the dog, the hound, and it tries to snap back at him. And when it tries to do that and lunges forward, Baranor is just quickly, deftly moves the sword underneath and kind of takes a deep gash across its chest.
And he's going to attack you with his fangs. See if this works.
Right.
Oh!
Failure.
What does it look like as he snaps and misses you?
Yeah, so as he kind of gashes across the chest, this thing gets even angrier, and each time it gets angrier, it tries to come at Baranor a little harder. Baranor is able to sense its movement before landing any strike, and he's able to sidestep quickly.
All right, make me another awareness check, Mr. Baranor.
Here goes. Shit, failure.
Failure.
He's busy fighting.
You don't see it until the Hound of Sauron. You don't see it until the Hound of Sauron is pierced through the eye by an arrow. Let me find my good sound here. There we go. As you kind of turn around after that arrow goes through the wolf, you see kind of cresting that hill behind you, your brother, along with several others. How do you react? And I'll let Targon pose his way in as well.
Want to go first, Nick?
Baranor kind of turns around, sees the cavalry of elves coming at him, and he's unable to, he's unable to place what's happening. The wargs, the elves, and then amongst the elves, he sees a face all too familiar, and it's Targon. But he can't believe it's Targon because the face that looks back at him is no different than the face Baranor has seen as his own reflection. And Baranor cannot remember in how long it has been since he has truly recognized his brother. And in Baranor's heart, a new light invigorates, a new will to fight the shadow comes to life, and he screams, "Targon!"
Targon hears the call and turns and recognizes his brother. And he turns to the elves and says, "My brother fights alone. Who is with me?" And he spurs his horse and yells, Nimruzir! And charges down upon the walls.
Yeah, Celebrimbor is like behind you, and he is. You've seen some Numenorian warriors, but this guy is wrath incarnate. Ost-in-Edhil! Elbereth Gilthoniel! Onward, Ost-in-Edhil! Ilbereth! And he kind of charges down, and he falls into the main line, kind of quickly saving King Brimban. But this giant wolf chieftain is in front of Baranor and Targon. As Targon comes to Baranor's aid, what happens?
Baranor rushes over, and as soon as Targon is on the ground, he spins him around and gives him a bear hug. I knew this day would come, dear brother. I knew my wait would not be in vain. I looked to the west for my light to return.
Targon's
Come, my brother. Once more into the fight. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry, didn't interrupt. Targon's truly taken aback by this warm welcome, and he freezes for a second, then he awkwardly hugs Baranor back. Says, It is sad but fitting that we meet again in blood, brother. But let us put an end to these creatures. The Lord of Wolves sends his minions. We will send him a message.
The message will be that the sons of House Nimruzir are now here to send the shadow back from whence it came.
Targon nods grimly, draws his sword to meet this creature.
Adding you to the combat queue. Choose your stance. And make sure you're not wary and stuff. And if you want to go first, Targon, you can. Or I guess it depends on your stance, doesn't it?
I'm having trouble toggling my stance.
I think you have to hit right click.
Right click.
Right click.
Yeah, I've got the thing. I've got toggle combat state, but when I click it, nothing happens. Oh, maybe it's because my token's too far over. Hold on, let me try over here. No. No. Is it because I'm in? Why is it not?
Wait, how did I get it the last time?
I can see the button for toggle combat state, but it's just not doing anything for me.
Well, I already clicked that. I already added you to the queue.
Yeah.
No, but he can't change his stance.
Yeah.
Can you change yours?
Oh, so combat state's not the same as stance, right? Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Wait,
okay.
how do I change mine? Yeah. Where'd I go? Oh no!
Oh no!
Hang on.
Baranor!
I'm looking for. So usually you right click on it and update combat. Yeah, you're right. You chose it when we started, didn't you?
Correct, yeah. But now I don't know what's happened.
Assign status. What's this? That's a target token. Target. I'm gonna put your tokens back on the map and see what happens. There, Baranor, Targon. Where do you toggle that? Very strange. Very strange.
Yes.
Maybe I have to go down through the.
But I can, now that I've toggled it, I can't untoggle it. And then I can't click on anything else.
Here, I'll do it.
I'm going to be open. That's my stance.
Yeah, Targon wants to go forward stance if I can do it.
Here, I'm just going to end combat. End combat. Boom. Empty turn tracker. All right, I added the Wolf Chieftain. I want to add you guys. Okay. Boom. Boom. Where do you pick the? It was on the left side, isn't it? Isn't it usually where that 0 is?
I can't remember. I can see the
It
icon.
usually is. It's
I can see the icon, but I can't. Yeah.
You can see the icon. It says open right now, or rearward.
Rearward. Yeah.
Opening volley. Begin combat.
Ah, now I see it.
Yep, now you can see it.
Yeah.
I think I probably like just did something wrong. Okay, so you guys can change it now.
Yeah, got it.
All right, you guys are up. You going forward?
Hell yeah.
I don't think you should be wary anymore. Miserable even.
Oh yeah.
So I'll remove that.
I need to reset because I still had. I should have rested, shouldn't I?
Yeah, the longest rest possible.
Yeah, it's been a lot of years.
Long rest.
Rest prolonged. Apparently, one and only one community actor should exist in the world. That's okay. It's because I've got 9 shadow. That's why I'm miserable. Like,
Yeah, maybe you are still miserable. We didn't do a fellowship phase. Do you want to just give yourself a hope point? I'll make your hope 10. There you go.
Thank you.
You gained 1 hope from Galadriel.
Hey.
The hands of hope. The hands. She gave you some hand salve.
Okay. So yeah,
Now you should be able to attack him. Yep.
Targon is going to attack. So, and yeah, so he's going to. I'm just reminding myself. You just need to use the sword here. 1 token. Oh, is it? I'm trying to find the. It's Alt, isn't it? To target.
No, T.
T.
Shift
Thank
T.
you. Thank you. Got it. Wow, it's been a while. Okay, and I'm going to use a hope point from the pool, from our pool, if I can. Just for the first attack. If that's okay, X?
Yeah. Go ahead. Go for it.
Like you both used those already then.
Yay.
Oh no.
That wasn't one of my hope points though, so I'm letting it back in. That was from the pool. I'm not making myself miserable again.
4 damage. Apply damage. So you hit him. What's it look like?
Okay, so yeah, as this huge wolf just closes in, snarling, Targon lunges forward and strikes it straight across. He tries to hit it in the head, but it rears its head back, and he strikes it kind of across the front of its body, its chest, and it snarls and rears back. Targon's kind of exposed himself a little bit, lunging too far forward.
Baranor, you're up. Extraordinary success. Jeez. Two-handed longsword is insane. That kills him, I think. I think it's going to kill him. Look.
Nice.
It does. Dead. What's that look like as you take him out?
Yeah, so at this point, Baranor is like one-shotting these wargs left, right, and center. And just as he saw, Brimban was getting surrounded, he comes rushing to his aid. He's able to push back a large-looking hound before the hound is injured by an arrow. Targon sees his brother. Baranor sees his brothers now by his side, and it just invigorates him like old. He feels like he's young again, and he taunts the large wolf. The house Nimruzir is united. Its sons are upon you. Die! And he kind of twirls around it and beheads it again in a clean slice.
I'll let you guys describe what it looks like as you do that, and Brimban's freed, and you guys are getting the upper hand, and the rest of the wargs flee to the east.
Look, go ahead, Targon.
Yeah, Targon turns and kind of takes stock of his brother, having not seen him in so many years. And he looks him up and down and then claps him on the back. Not smiling, but seeming genuinely glad to see him. It's good to see you, brother. Been too many years. And he looks grim, but pleased to see him all the same.
As the chaos around them starts to kind of die down, as Targon keeps looking at his brother, Targon would see that the reflection of the brother that he's seeing is no different. It's as if a reflection of Targon is looking back upon him. Targon sees the age on his brother's face. He sees that the Middle-earth time has cast a heavy and exacting toll on Baranor. Baranor is a little more hunched. You can see from this battle he is a little winded, very much unlike the Baranor of old. It is good to see you again, brother. Long have I waited to set these eyes upon you. Long have I thought of our reunion and what I would say to you. I understand now. I could not back then. I feel I know the day you left these lands. So that's the day. It was a grace that was on me left. Much dark have my days been, till I see you now again.
Targon looks at him and is silent for a moment and says, I've long thought on our journeys together, brother. How different they were to what we had expected, we had hoped for. I cursed this land so many times as we journeyed across it. Yet, when I returned home, the light, the beauty, the peace there, none of it seemed real. They all seemed an illusion. I felt I was dwelling in a dream. I no more be happy there than I ever was here. Seeing you and feeling that there is no more anger between us is the best I have felt in many a long year, my brother. And he puts his hand on Baranor's shoulder and grips it tight. There's a journey ahead of me, brother. And I would be honored if you were to stand by my side. I would hear the tale of your years and what has befallen you while you have dwelt here.
And Baranor raises his sword. He's now by Targon's side again, by his rightful side. House Nimruzir is redeemed, brother. Our actions tonight and all these years have redeemed House Nimruzir. Look around us. We are surrounded by elves of old and kings of new. We have fought back the shadow many a time, and like tonight and many nights before, we have always prevailed. It is because you and I somehow were inexorably bound, irrespective of what distances lay between us, outside and here inside. The bond of our family kept us together. I shall fight by your side.
I should warn you though, my brother, we travel into darkness. If you have a family, you should bid them farewell. I hope to return, but nothing is certain. I think you have seen something of the darkness that lies on the lands further east. He looks about him. So perhaps I do not need to warn you.
And Targon, you would see, like, when you talk about Baranor's family, like his face, like, visibly drop, become ashen almost. Shadow has laid claim to my daughter and wife. My son is to the north, fighting with Brimban, our friend who is now king, his son. They are young and energetic and are able to keep the vicious men of the northeast at bay. But no, my brother, I have no kin with me now, so I have no one to warn. I know where my path lies. It lies right beside you, and it follows you wherever your path lies. That is my fate from now on.
Argon looks at him with sympathy. I am sorry, Baranor. I had hoped that you would find more joy than I have. But perhaps there has been a shadow upon us since that first night when the Bell Spirit spoke to us. Perhaps our only path is to travel into the east, and to make as good a death as we may. But with me I have companions. And he turns and realizes he rudely hasn't introduced them. He said, I forget my manners. I believe you may remember, if you search your memory, brother, the elves Gwingel, Umon and Henethon. And this is the famed Lord Celebrimbor of Lindon, master craftsman. And You may notice that as Targon's introducing him, Celebrimbor's mouth probably tightens a little bit. It's probably clear that they aren't getting on.
Baranor bows at all of them. He looks at the three elves. It has indeed been a good day then, if I am yet to meet the same elves I met a long time ago. It does bring a light to my heart in this shadow. It does make these years of toil feel almost like a blink of an eye. We are well met indeed.
Targon nods. He seems sympathetic and genuinely glad to see Baranor, but he can't seem to quite muster happiness. As he's trying to think of what to say to Baranor, aware that he can't quite match the genuine emotion that Baranor is feeling, he looks and he looks up and his gaze strays further to the east. And I expect, Bo, that there's this kind of fire in the distance, right?
Yeah, now that the sun is set, you can see far, just peeking over the mountains of shadow, you can see the tip of Orodruin, or Mountain Doom as it will become to be known, and every once in a while there's a flicker of orange underneath the dark clouds to the east. You can't hear the low rumble of the volcano, but you can see the flicker of the light, and even that alone is enough to make all but the most hale men nervous for what's to come.
Arnen looks there and looks up there and he says, "When I left you all those years ago, brother, was to travel towards that fire, seek the truth of what lies there. I failed. Was taken by hooks before I ever reached it. This time, though, 6 of us." And he turns around and realizes there's others. "And any of your companions who wish to journey with us. This time we will journey further. We will find the truth. This time it will not elude me. We will watch each other while we sleep so that we are not taken unawares by foul orcs. And we will bring back to the west the truth."
And so be it, brother. I shall be your eyes when you sleep, and you shall be mine when this company of men and elf, like allies of old, shall march east.
Today we're
towards
used to
that
seeing feathered dinosaurs
dreary,
flying.
dreadful mountain. And if fate is with us, we will be successful, and we will reveal the shadow for what it is, so that more may come after us and defeat it.
I fear I have little left that resembles faith, brother. But will, determination, that I can still muster some little yet. And perhaps that will be enough.
Then for honor, for land, and for House Nimruzir, let us ride once more into the fray.
Aye, once more. Brothers, for House Nimruzir.
Brothers for House Nimruzir.
And Targon reaches forward and embraces him.
Why don't you guys both give yourself a hope point for that excellent roleplay? And for meeting again with the blood of Numenor upon the field of battle. And as you say that, Celebrimbor, amidst the grime, the death, and the fur and the carcasses of the battlefield, he has the head of that Hound of Sauron between his two strong and fair hands, and he looks into the eyes of the slain beast. He takes his right hand and kind of lifts up the maw of the beast, looking at its fangs, at its teeth. He kind of turns to Targon and Baranor as well, perhaps assuming that this is indeed Targon the Tall's brother. Nay, Targon the Tall, you'll not go alone. Your words were doubted. Mine ears did not want to hear what you had to say, Targon, but now, as I said, I have seen it with my own eyes. This is a Hound of Sauron, an ancient enemy of my people, the LOTR. If he has risen again in the east, then you can have my sword. I will stand steadfast. Never let it be said that Celebrimbor of Eregion fled when the shadow rose. Indeed, I will stand, and we will bring news back to the Lady Galadriel and the High King Gil-galad of Sauron and his dominion of all of Rhûn. And then you hear the voice of the king as he comes forth with a couple leaders of men and also two others that you do not know, but they look like elves. And Brimben says, "Hail! Well met, elf of Eregion. I know not your name, but my name is Brimben, king of Emyn Arnen. And indeed, it does seem that fortune smiles upon us. Our numbers grow." He casts his gaze back to his left, and you see a couple hundred of the refugees, and many of them actually have swords and stuff. They have done battle and they have defended themselves well. King Brimben says, "Elves of Eregion, long have I heard tales of your dwelling place in the mountains, but alas, here we are joined from elves of the east. Of them I heard not." Celebrimbor says, "Nor I." Targon and Baranor, can you both give me a lore check?
Aye.
What's wrong with that guy on the right? Come on.
Ah.
You guys don't know. So the male elf, nearly as tall as Celebrimbor, but not quite. He comes forth. Indeed. Let's change the music a little bit. Just a little bit. He says, "Indeed, our tale has been lost to the sands of time. Surely, Celebrimbor, Lord of Eregion, you have heard of the elves that woke so long ago. We of the Bay of Quivienen, the Morquendi we are called, those who never journeyed to the west. And yet, we now know fear. This king that has risen, this Sauron and his lieutenants in the east, they seek to divide, to conquer, and to rule. and we have fled. But alas, myself and my companion, Lithilian, we can offer much aid along with these fine folk here. Celebrimbor just looked at the two elves and said, "But you have no name? You have spoken of your lineage and where you come from. But what must I call you? I am known among my people as Annatar the Gracious," he says. "And I come now, in your time of need. Ha! It is a blessing! The lords of the West surely smile upon us." Celebrimbor looks upon Annatar's face, and finding him fair and strong and covered in the blood of war, there's absolutely no reason to doubt his sincerity. And Celebrimbor, searching the basement, the cellars of his memory, he does remember long talks with Celeborn, the wife of Galadriel, in the forges of Ost-in-Edhil, even as Celebrimbor worked his magic, worked his craft. He remembers Celeborn telling him the story of the Morquendi, the elves who never sought the West, that still lived in peace far, far, far to the east of Middle-earth, far to the east of Middle-earth, even where Círdan, the shipwright, says that indeed the elves did awake, near the bay of Cuiviénen. And so, thinking him a long-lost relative kin, Celebrimbor welcomes Lithilian and Annatar and embraces them. "Welcome to the West, Lithilian Annatar. You will find a new home here. Are there others of your kind far to the east?" And Annatar answers, "Nay, we are the last survivors of our people. It is for that reason that sorrow is upon my heart, and it is for that reason that I will aid you in your struggle against this Iron King who calls himself Khamûl, the shadow in the east, the black Easterling." Targon and Baranor, what are you doing?
Apart from just standing there watching these two elves talk.
Targon is a little distracted. Now he's caught sight of this fire in the distance. The first time he's had a good, proper view of it. Not that he can really see it directly, but the clearest view he's had since returning here. And the thought that they've come this far and turning back doesn't sit well with him. He's just staring off into the distance, barely aware of the conversation. Fixated on this fire.
If there's nothing else, then as the night wears on, the dead are buried, and in the dawn, the refugees and the elves and you old men of Numenor make the day-long journey back to Emyn Arnen. Unless there's nothing else.
Nope.
All right. All right, let's find it here. Castle of Emyn Arnen. Okay, Kimbringband. Let's populate this here. Let's find some folks. Here's Targon. Don't need house anymore.
Who dat?
There's my boy Celebrimbor. We'll leave out those other three, and then we'll have under the folder that says Mayar. Guess we'll find this guy, and we'll also find this this chick here. Where is she at? Other elves, Lithilian. All right. So over the next couple days, spirits are lifted somewhat, as it seems that this host of refugees, these men and women and children too, they seem a little bit more able to defend themselves. Traveling the long way from maybe southern Greenwood or that entire region. I'm going to go ahead and highlight our second age map here so we can, just like in the final episode of many good shows, we want to retrace our steps and what's gone on so far. And so, these folks might be from this area up in here, kind of in between Mirkwood and modern-day Mordor. And so what happens in the next coming days is these folks, indeed, they are more mouths to feed, but they also swell the ranks of fighting men and whatnot. And so there seems to be an air of hope in Emyn Arnen. And I'm going to let you guys roleplay.
So, Baranor, when they're back in Emyn Arnen, the next day, after getting some good night's sleep, kind of almost drags Targon through the various parts of the castle and the grounds of the castle, and then the grounds outside amongst the houses and hamlets. He's showcasing all the various architectures that are inspired from Westerness. He's trying to kind of show Targon, what Baranor and Brimban built here.
Targon listens politely and follows him and looks at everything he's supposed to look at, but he seems distant. There's almost an air of disappointment about him. And when it comes to evening, he's found up on the battlements, looking east, staring once again at that fire.
So just to recap our journey so far, you guys sailed from Numenor initially. Oops, I want it to be blue. I want it to be red. Configure default. There we go. Here we are. You guys sailed from Numenor. All right. You guys went. Oh, sorry. You first went to Vignalande, and you went up to Gwathlo.
Hey, we got super lucky because
Helped get supplies
saw the
to
whale and I stopped.
build ships.
A couple hundred meters away from it.
You went back down the Gwathlo after you found rumors that the new shadow was rising in the east. Telling that to Aldarion, he took note of that, but you needed to finish your journey down the south of Middle Earth, exploring the coast. And so you and Aldarion went down the coast into the Bay of Balfalas. And somewhere in the Bay of Balfalas, you guys were attacked by that sea monster. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your ship was sunk, and you were cast upon the shore, and that's when you met the Blue Wizard, and eventually you met who? What was that guy's name? The Wozes.
Moses, Bakugan.
Bakugan with his dance spear.
Yep. And so you traveled up the Ringlow to the mountains, the White Mountains, where the Bukugan, the Wozes lived, and you helped them free that area of Works. After that, still wanting to explore this mystery in the east, you traveled further east, and that's when you ran into Terenian, the first age elf, and also met a Huorn, and heard stories of the Ents. In the meantime, Aldarion was exploring the southern coast of Middle Earth, probably thinking you were dead, and eventually returned back home. And it was surprised many years later, probably, when Targon returned. And so that's your journey so far. And you guys are right around this region here. That's where Emyn Arnen is. And so you're in the castle of Emyn Arnen trying to figure out what to do about this encroaching enemy to the east. And it sounds like you guys are going to ride out to meet them. So not to spare your homeland the
To spare our homeland destruction, we are going to ride out to meet them.
Yeah.
like this area.
Yeah,
All right.
in the open plains.
And so just to recap the journey of Terenian, he went far to the east, right? So he's going to be the blue. So did he go all the way to Rune where he was captured?
I don't think so, because he was probably actually trying to get through into here and head towards Mount Doom. So he probably
went up here.
Yeah.
And probably down like where the Black Gate is, but it's not there yet, right?
Yeah. And
so he probably slunk along the mountains like Smeagol got captured.
Yeah. Yeah. Somewhere around there, I'd have thought.
And eventually returned home.
Yeah.
And he returned home. Probably met up with Baranor years ago.
Yep.
Went back down the river, and then caught a ship back to Numenor. And then more recently, about a month ago, Targon and Aldarion sailed all the way to Mithlond. And Targon, with those elves and Celebrimbor, traveled down to Ost-in-Edhil. And then all the way down to here. And the plan was for Aldarion. I want to make him green. Sail back down the coast. Pick up reinforcements in Vinulande and again go up to Anduin to meet you guys. But you have not heard from him, certainly. And I'm going to go ahead and go back to the castle of Emyn Arnen. Activate. So you should be able to see that. All right, that makes sense.
Yep.
I just wanted to recap since we've had so long between our sessions.
We have done quite a lot.
And so the eve before the host of Emyn Arnen is set to ride out, King Brimban has a great council. And so we find ourselves in, we'll say, the council chamber, or maybe even a feast hall of the castle of Emyn Arnen. And there's been a lot of discussion. A lot of the knights, a lot of the soldiers of Emyn Arnen want to stay home. They want to hold their fortified castle against the encroaching darkness. Still others are with Celebrimbor and Targon and Baranor. They want to ride out and spare their homeland the destruction. And there's a lot of arguing going on, and at one point, one of the local men kind of raises his voice. Why ride out to face this menace? It will find us in time. If we ride in the morning, we surely ride to our destruction. Nay, look at these elves. They dwell in the west. Why not retreat across the Anduin to the White Mountains or the Mountains of Mist? There it seems there are forests to hide, and we will live many long years. Our children will be raised in peace, and their children's children. Yes, indeed. The shadow may finally consume all of Middle-earth, but that will not be for a long, long time.
What we speak is the truth, but only the half-truth. If we ride out and meet them, then we save our women and children. If we are unsuccessful in stopping the shadow, then the people of Arnen, what is it? Arnen when?
Emyn.
Arnen.
Emyn, yeah. The people of Emyn have a chance, have a hope of escape to the lands to the west. But if we fight in these city walls, then we will not be able to save everyone.
At that point, King Branban is listening, and he has counseled wise wisdom thus far. He's an old man, however, and he says, "If I fear not to lose my wife, my life, men of Emyn, then you should not either. For the life lived under terror and the threat of dominion of this Iron King Kamul is no life at all. Let not it be said that the men of Emyn fled, that they lived out their lives in quiet desperation and eventually faltered. If we are to perish, let it to be with sword and shield in hand, nay?" And as he says that, like, half of the crowd just screams and cheers. Targon?
Yeah, Targon nods. He doesn't really have a strong reply. He's backing Baranor in this decision, but he seems increasingly distant ever since they turned back from their quest. Seems he had this vision of him and Baranor riding off into the east and journeying together one last time, and this is, he understands this is an important duty. He seems to somehow resent it all the same. He'll do his duty, but there's a distance about him now, and he's often brooding and seeming a little absent.
Baranor sees that in his brother, and then he kind of looks around to the other half of the room that did not cheer Brimban's words, and he says, remember what your father and your father before him and his father before him, what they had to survive and what they had to fight to carve this little piece of land for their own. The kingdom with no name, the kingdom that's now lived long enough for a name, to be worthy of a name. And what a name it is. Emyn, the jewel to the east, the hope to all these refugees. Ride out for them. Ride out for what Emyn stands for. For honor, for our land, for Emyn.
And with that, more cheer. You sense a presence on your left hand, though, Targon. And as you turn, Annatar is there on your left hand. He says, "You fear for these people, Targon the Tall, do you not? Yes, they have lived a peaceful life here on the east bank of the great river. You're being less than honest with them if you think that they can ride to the east and come back all alive and still on breath. Yes, the war slogans of men are easily spoken. Boys wish for glory. Women wish to see their husbands ride home on white horses, triumphant, their swords bloodied, their armors dented but not penetrated. But you know that this is not the real face of war, do you not, Targon?
Aye, that I do. Then what of you, Elf of the East? What would you have us do?
I would have you do not. I would ride with you, but I would not have these people of Emyn and Arnen slain needlessly. I have met with Celebrimbor. I am somewhat of a smith myself. One could say I am a great fan of Aule. Can you give me a lore check with a 1 bonus die?
Okay.
Since you're talking to Annatar.
Lore check and add a. Is it to the right or left for a bonus?
I think it's to the right. It's
Okay.
+1.
Second.
Oh. Double doffs. Double doffs.
Dov.
Annatar put it into your mind. So you know so much about Aule. Aule is one of the Valar, the greatest craftsman. He built the mountains. He created the dwarves, and pours much power into the artifacts of the elves. And it's rumored even that Celebrimbor is a devotee of Aule as well. And Annatar tells you he is certainly a great fan. And you know this. And it is at this point when Annatar holds out his right hand to you. And he says, yes, myself and Celebrimbor did have some time to speak of the lost arts of the elves. Far to the east, in the Bay of Quaven, there are things that are lost to Aragion. I look forward to traveling to the mountains, but for now, I have a gift for you and your brother. Or perhaps just you alone in King Brimband. There is no need to lead these innocent humans to slaughter. With these 2 trinkets, you will have the power to turn back the dark tide that rises in the east. Here, take these. Try them on. And he holds out to you 2 iron. They're made seemingly of run-of-the-mill iron, but they're extremely beautiful. But to behold, there is a elven script running along the outside of the iron, and there are some pale jewels set along the outside of it. But for all intents and purposes, it is a simple iron ring, but it's just beautiful to behold.
Argon.
And he gives them to you, and you can wear them. If you would like, you do get a +2 bonus dice to all rolls in this session.
Last temptation brings him low. And Targon will kind of hold it and lift it up and say, "It is beautiful in a way I have not seen. Did not know the elves worked in iron. Having seen this, I wonder why they do not work in it more often. How will a ring help me?"
It is not a good.
I'm a warrior. I use sword, shield, armor, ring. And he kind of shakes his head, and says, I would not refuse a gift of such beauty, but it seems wasted on a rough man such as myself.
Rough men. You speak so lowly of yourself, Targon the Tall. Do you speak more highly of your brother Baranor the Swift? Nay, these are not but simple rings. These are filled with magic, as lowly spoken men would say. And such things in previous ages of this world were not uncommon. In the first age of this world, an age They found great walls, the wall of wrath, and elsewise. There were weapons, helms, armored, all emblazoned with words of power, words of the elves that brought great beauty, protection, a quick tongue to one's mouth. This is no different. Perhaps you have seen such an item. And Targon, it comes to mind that you have seen both the sword and sheath of Tarenian, which was inscribed with words of power, and indeed was magic, and indeed glowed in the presence of evil. So perhaps to you, fair Annatar's words are not so crazy.
Seems plausible.
Certainly.
And Targon says, I would not be so churlish as to refuse such a gift, though I scarce see how I have deserved it. And the other you say is for the king.
Or your brother. Either way, it is not my will to see these innocent men and women from Emyn and Arnen are led to the slaughter. Let us ride forth, mine self and mine mate, the Thilian, and Celebrimbor, mighty elf of Ost-in-Edhil, mighty elf of Eregion, perhaps the most skilled craftsman since Feanor. And he smiles at you, Targon, and your heart melts.
And Targon gives him a wan half smile back and says, I will do my best to be worthy of such a gift. And he puts on the ring.
You feel extremely great. In real world perspective, you often hear addicts speak about the first time they used their drug of choice, and they felt normal for the first time. They feel all the sorrow of the world's lifted from them. They feel normal for the most time. All their pain goes away. You feel, Targon, that you're able to handle yourself. You're able to protect this kingdom. You even have love for your wife back home in Numenor, and you realize, man, I could have done better by them. I'm going to return home someday after gaining glory in the East, and I'm going to be famous. I'm going to bring glory to the House Nimruzir, and House Nimruzir will ride again, and it's going to be because of me and my brother. I'll let you all play how it makes you feel.
Yeah. Targon will stand there, holding his hand up with the ring on it and admiring it for some time after Annatar leaves, turning his hand both ways in the light, watching how the light reflects off this simple yet beautiful item. Dark yet delicately made and bejeweled. And watches the light reflect off it, looks at the delicate runes of power very subtly engraved into it, and remembers back all those years before when he first arrived here, thinking himself stepping into a legend of old. And now, with this power kind of coursing through him, now suddenly, after all these years of pain and darkness and doubt, suddenly it seems like some of these might be in his grasp again. And as he stands there for a long time, he's playing out visions of riding into the east as a conqueror, and then returning home and restoring the name of House Nimruzir, and his wife being glad to see him for once, and his children embracing him, and him becoming the head of this great house, with Baranor by his side, and them together again, and both raising their families together. And suddenly all this seems within his grasp, and he feels powerful and strong and resolute. And he His expression slowly changes from weighed down by doubt and pain and a feeling of age beyond his years. He slowly, just over this time he's looking at the ring, he slowly straightens and becomes taller and prouder in his bearing, and a confidence enters his face. And even a slow smile. And finally, he clenches his hand, turns his fist towards him, looks at the ring, and says, "So this is my path then. After so many years, so much doubt, this is the path for House Nimruzir." And it's probably at that moment that Baranor finds him.
Yeah, Annatar is gone. You admiring the ring, and like you look to your left to see him again, and he's gone. He's a sidler. So you walk into the room, Baranor, and you see Targon kind of looking at this thing on his hand, and to your face, Baranor, he looks 20 years younger. He looks hale, strong, and there is a light in his eyes that you have not seen since you left Numenor with him all those years ago in the company of Aldarion.
Baranor looks upon Targon, and a smile crosses his face. "You seem well, brother. I knew bringing you back here to Emyn would lighten your load and have your troubles sail away. You look better. You look ready."
I am ready, brother. I feel more ready, more strong, more resolute than I have in many a long year. And you, I see the years weighing heavy upon you. Would you wish to have your load lightened as well? I have been offered a gift by the elves. And he opens his hand, and there's the other ring lying on it in his left hand. You know, he's got his ring on his right hand, and in his left hand he opens his hand, and there's the other ring lying on his palm.
Oh.
And he holds it out to Baranor and says, "I will leave the choice to you, my brother. This ring is either for the king or for you. I would have you by my side, but if your duty tells you that the king should have it, then so be it. But I will tell you this. It is not coming here that has lightened my load. It is the power that courses through me from this artifact. Elven skill and magic. Ancient power. This can save us, brother. This can save your kingdom. And it's for you to decide whether the hero who wields it will be you or the king. I will not make that choice for you."
My choice has already been made, brother. I can see upon you now from where your strength comes. And I'm glad that you found this ring of power when you needed it most. I think this ring should go to my king Brimban. Let him wear it with pride and thanks to the elves, so that he may protect his land. And if he is strong to protect his land, then he no longer needs my service, which leaves me free to be by your side. Thus, with this one gift from the elves, I not only have my brother, but I have my freedom to be by his side. What more can I ask for?
And Targon smiles a warm, genuine smile towards Baranor. It looks like he's just been transformed completely. Probably Baranor can well believe that this is magic that affected Targon, and he says, "In that, how can I argue with such loyalty, both to your king and to your family? We are blessed to have you, both this land and the family. House Nimruzir is blessed in you, Baranor. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it." And then he pauses, because the thing he planned to say next was that he was so moved by this that he was going to give Baranor his ring, so that the king and Baranor could have a ring each. But he finds himself strangely reluctant to say the words. He finds himself just already very attached to this. He feels it's his. It's not just been given to him. It's right that it's his. It belongs with him. So he doesn't say those words. He just smiles and holds out his arms and embraces Baranor once more, this time with open and genuine affection, and laughs as he claps his brother on the back. "As brighter days will be ours, my brother. I am sure of it now. For so many years I couldn't see any light beyond the darkness, but now I see it. There is a power here that can win us through, a light that can shine through this darkness and take us to the other side."
And we shall see it together, brother. We shall see it together.
And we shall. Here, you take this gift to the king. And he puts the ring into Baranor's hand. "I will leave it to you to describe how precious this gift is that he has been given. This is a thing of old.
I shall do that." With that, Baranor turns and starts walking towards where he knew Brimban was there last.
Yeah, you find Brimban, and you find him up in his chamber. He's sitting on his throne, and as you enter, you hear your bootsteps echo in his throne room, and it's empty. There are tapestries there. You know that Brimban at once married. You know that he does have an heir who's his child that survives, it's young. But he had two older sons who have perished, and his wife died in childbirth while giving him a daughter as well. And so sadness is heavy upon King Brimban's eyes, and his crown appears heavy on his head as you walk into the throne room. Yet, his hands, his sinewy hands, are tight on the leather thongs that tie his armor on, and he's tying his armor on. And as you enter the throne room, he picks up his sword. Ah! Well met, Baranor the Swift. Swiftly coming to the aid of Emyn, and without you, my friend, we would have faltered many years ago.
Yes, young Brimban. I do remember those days when you were still young, when we would practice the art of fighting in the courtyard. Much has happened since then. I've seen you grow, become a king, become a father, become a friend. But I fear my time with you is coming to an end. My brother is back, and he needs my aid. Many a year ago, I did not see what my brothers saw. I was sheltered and protected by His grace. And when His grace left the land, I truly saw what this Middle Earth was capable of. But He's back. The fates have brought Him back. And I must now go with Him. My path lies by His side, just like it did all these years by yours. But I do not go lightly in this hour of need. I come bearing a gift from the elves of the East. It has given my brother renewed life, strength, vigor, and will. I pray it bring you the same. And with that, Baranor kind of outstretches his hand, the ring on it, giving it over to Brimban.
Brimbrand looks at Baranor's outstretched hand and the ring therein, and he smiles. I dare say, Baranor, old friend, you have been as a child, as a father to me since I was a child, and you never fail to surprise me. He picks the ring up from your hand and holds it into the light. Shades of orange and red from nearby sconces dancing upon the iron ring, dancing upon the pale jewels set therein, and he says, Iron, a simple thing, but strong. It is what the machines of men is built from. Men who fade into the dust all too early. Even those such as yourself from Westerness. But it is beautiful. Such exquisite craftsmanship. It seems to shine of its own accord, Baranor. Where did you come by such a thing? It is precious. Are you muted?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Yeah. My brother Targon, he came by it. I believe some of his friends he's made on his journey gifted it to him. He gave me a choice whether I keep the rings for myself or give them to you, and I chose you, the king of these lands, the king of Emyn.
It would be rude for myself to refuse such a gift, beautiful though it may be. And it may also be that, Baranor, that this is the last night that I wear it. And he takes it and slips it on his ring finger. The king seems, in front of your eyes, to grow in stature and to become, again, the young, not the boy, but like in his prime, right? And he stands and he grips his sword and whips it around. Ha! An old friend bearing gifts. You have raised my spirits, Baranor. My heart feels stout enough to take on the entire kingdom of Kamul itself. We will ride forth together, and if we meet death, we will do so bravely. Let's make a day worthy of song, Baranor the Swift. With you by my side, I do not think we can lose!
We shall not, my king. The morrow brings with us a day of hope, a day when the shadow can no longer hide.
And as you speak with him, and he says this, that's when you hear a low horn from outside the castle walls. And Brimban stands up and goes to one of the windows of the throne room and says, "Alas! Not an army approaches, but a small company. Look, Baranor, down yonder." And he points.
Yeah, Baranor comes to the window and he looks out as well.
As you look down from the window, you see a handful of figures. They're garbed in black. They seem to have plate armor on that's also black. It seems to absorb any light that falls upon it in the setting sun. The stars are rising high in the sky and are faintly visible, and it seems that darkness flows with these people that are approaching the castle. And out from the gates, you hear a voice, a thunderous voice, raised in summoning. And you hear a voice say, "King Brimban, King of Emyn Arnen, leader of the frail men that dwell between the mountains and Anduin the Great. Come forth! Come to yonder window, for myself and my people come in peace. We come to treat with thee. Now, if you wish to avoid the slaughter of your men and your women, come hither. Let us talk of peace in the days ahead, and how you can serve me and my lord in the east, known as the Iron King. What say you, King Brimban?" He kind of looks and to Baranor, and he kind of says out to the wall, "Halt there! Stop to the gates. I will come forth, but I am not alone. I have with me men of Westerness, far from across the sundering sea, men who stand bright and tall against your encroaching terror. And what's more, I have elves of the west as well in my number." And Baranor, give me an awareness roll. Yeah, you see that Kamul is a little taken aback by that. You see that he falters somewhat with the mention of the elves of the west. And he says, "If elves are in your number, I see them not. It is a feint. Nothing more. Myself and my company will treat with thee. The denizens of Emyn Arnen will be most grateful to survive the night and survive the coming years. For I am Kamul, known as the Shadow of the East, the Black Easterling, and I will stay my wrath if you love peace." Brimban turns to Baranor. "Baranor, you and your brother, I would have you by my side as I treat with this man, although I do not intend to strike any deals. He is a liar like all who have come before."
King Brimban, if I may, I say we do not treat at all. We approach him, my brother at my side, and you and me. We approach him, and as he begins to treat, we attack, spring surprise upon him. And then the elves of the west and the east can come charging after us. A secondary surprise. Kamul was unnerved by the mention of them. He seems to have dismissed it so that he may gather his wits about him. No, the elves worry him. Let us not speak at all to this man. As soon as we are in his sight, we set upon him. Like the wargs, he set upon us.
King Bremban kind of falters for a moment, and he looks at the ring on his finger, and that seems to give him hope. Yes. Yes. Too long has Emyn fought with honor. These fools from the east deserve not honor, they deserve treachery. And in such treachery they will find a sword between their ribs. We will strike at the head of the snake and we will sever it. Yes, Baranor, you are wise. Let me tell this servant of the shadow that we will treat with him, and thus he will be ensnared. And so it was that King Bremban again came to the veranda, he came to the window, and he shouted down to Kamul, raising his left hand that bore the iron ring that was gifted to Targon by Annatar, and gifted to Baranor by Targon, and thus gifted to the king of Emyn, King Bremban, son of Oscar. And he said thus, Kamul, we will treat with thee. Alas, I do not wish ill upon my people, I do not wish them slain. We will come hither, and we will wreak peace. And at that time, beneath his armor, the shadow of the east, the black Easterling smiled, and he waited for King Bremban and Baranor and Targon to come forth. And come forth they did. And I'll let you guys say what it looks like as you guys come out of the gates towards Kamul. Or you can speak with Targon too. You probably might need to convince him a little bit. I don't know. It's up to him.
Targon wouldn't take much convincing, not now.
Not now.
He's full of confidence and bordering on arrogance. And he's eager to prove himself against the shadow. He's lost so many times now. He's going to win, and he's going to keep winning. And so yeah, he strides out the gate with them, just a confidence and say kind of an arrogance, just showing itself in the way he walks, the way he holds himself, his expression as he looks upon this black, huge figure of Kamul. He's not even as wary as he should be. And he smiles confidently to Baranor and to the king, in whom he can see the same confidence that he feels. He's thinking, there's two of us wearing. How can anything defeat us? We could take a dragon right now, you know. So yeah, he's thinking that they could destroy monsters out of the stories, let alone this one man, formidable as he looks. So he's way overconfident and kind of relishing a chance at violence.
Baranor.
Baranor, he's a little taken aback to see both Bremban and Targon seem even more younger than just a moment ago. As each moment passes, some renewed strength seems to empower them, and he can't quite place it. But he's happy to see the youth of old in his brother and in his friend, and here, Bremban. And then he looks straight ahead to see Kamul. the evil from the east. Within Baranor, the heart slightly falters. He sees for Khamûl for what Khamûl is, a mountain of a being, sheer evil will. But Baranor feels at the same time buoyed by the fact that Brimban and Targon seem warriors of old, ready to do battle one last time. And with that, Baranor starts riding along with them a little faster towards Khamûl.
As Khamûl comes forth, he leaves his entourage behind, and he kind of like rides up this little sidewalk, this street in front of him. And as he comes forth, you see a giant two-handed sword that is slung across his back, and he is wearing a heavy iron helm with two horns curved backwards, kind of out the ends. His armor and his gauntlets is spiked and cruel appearing, and as he comes within 10 paces, you can see that his horse is a tortured being. There are cruel appearing nails coming out of the beast's hooves from the horseshoes. You can see that the eyes themselves, they've either been gouged out or he's been tortured in some way, but they're just pits. You don't know how this beast even sees. And as he stomps the ground, you can tell that the beast is in pain, and he wants nothing more than to trammel Baranor and King Brimban and Targon and make his hate apparent to the rest of the world. But Khamûl, hate upon hate, strikes fear into his beast and thus has him stand still. And Khamûl says, "You have kept your word, King Brimban, and you have brought your Numenorian dogs with you. But I see no elves. Alas, I call your faint. And now we come to hear you beg and plead for mercy, to hear you swear allegiance to Khamûl of the East, to bend the knee to the Black Easterling. What say you, King Brimban?" Brimban stands tall on his horse, and he unsheaths his sword, and it is as to you that light ripples along the length of his blade, although it is certainly not magic. Maybe Annatar is staring from the window up top. And there's fear-stricken Khamûl, and his horse backpedals a little bit. King Brimban says, "I am but a petty king of this land in between the mountains of the Shadow and the Anduin. But with me are the lords of Westerness, Baranor the Swift, and Targon the Tall. And they have unmasked your lord. I will not mince words. You serve Sauron, Lord of Wolves, servant of Morgoth of old in Beleriand. Flee now back to the east and trouble us no more." Khamûl laughs. "You speak the name of your Lord God in days to come. Sauron, yes, he does dwell here. He dwells in all of Middle-earth. His malice is in all things. Even your castle that now crumbles." And he outstretches his left hand, and one of the parapets of your castle just shakes and crumbles. But King Brimban and Targon, I don't know about you, Baranor. Baranor, make a valor check.
Yeah.
King Brimban and Targon, you just like are going to laugh at Khamûl, right? Yeah, you're frightened. You're frightened. I mean, he fucking extended his hand and the castle just broke.
Yep.
Right? But you react, and then Targon, tell me how you feel his equal.
You go first. Thanks.
Yeah, so Baranor sees that, and now fear strikes his heart. The horse underneath him feels Baranor's fear and starts whinnying and moving around and kind of stepping back as Baranor is quickly trying to bring the animal and his own heart under control.
Targon looks across at Baranor and just gives him a reassuring smile, and says to Brimban, he says, "My Lord King, I must apologize for the ill manners of this oaf who stands upon your ground using his child's tricks to scare your soldiers. Obviously a man who would torture his own horse has no weapons but fear."
And fear has no effect on me, Targon the Tall. It has been since I was but a boy that we engaged in battle together, but I think that the time again has come. Fear not, Baranor. Khamul is but a servant of a whelp of the East. This is but a trick. Come now, Targon. You can see his ring as he he holds his sword with two hands on his horse, right? And that ring just flashes. Whoa! Let us usher forth and teach this black being the true meaning of fear. Ha! And King Brimban spurs his horse forward. What do you guys do?
And Targon draws his blade and yells, "For Westerness!" and laughs as he does so. And charges at Khamul with the joy of battle upon him.
Brimban and Targon take off. Baranor is still he's lost half a step, and then he sees his king and his brother race off, and then he kind of gathers his wits about himself and spurs his horse, raises his sword and screams, "For House Nimruzir!" and starts charging after Khamul.
Khamul spurs his horse forward, and he rips out his sword, and it ripples with fire. Fire runs along his blade. In his left hand now, he brings a gauntleted hand out, and you see a ring on it too. And in that left hand is a cruel dagger, and he races towards Brimban, Targon, and Baranor, and battle is joined. All right. I'm going to add you guys to the combat queue. Brimban is just going to be for story purposes. We're going to skip the opening volley. Come hither, men of Westerness.
Okay, I can't change my stance again.
Yep, same here.
Wonder what that... Oh, begin combat. There we go. Let me try now.
Yeah, that's it.
Still not there?
Yep, works for me.
Works for me now.
Okay. Targon was charging in very confidently, but having seen that ring, it checks him for a moment and he decides to be a little bit more cautious.
Right. All right, you guys are up. All three of you. King Brimban initially, he goes first. So he comes forward and his sword unsheaths, and he goes towards Khamul. Ching! It's parried. And what do you guys do?
Okay, Baranor is going to attack. And use a hope on this attack. Failure. No, sorry, success.
Protection test. 5 damage. All right. Apply damages. Protection test. Here we go.
Should I click on it?
What's that? Oh, you can do it if you'd like. Yeah. I don't know if it works. I don't know if it works for.
No.
Yeah, I think it's GM only.
Yeah.
Makes it pretty fast, honestly. Nice.
Oh!
What's that look
Suck
like?
Damn, son!
So Baranor is still, once he sees his brother and Brimban reach Kamul and see them engage, he kind of loses all of that fear, and Kamul's eyes are focused on Brimban and Targon, and he does not see Baranor come charging from behind them, and Baranor kind of at the last minute moves to the side, brings up his sword and smashes it against the chest of Kamul.
Awesome. Okay, Targon, I guess. Let's do this. Okay. And I've got two.
You get a +2 for free.
Nice.
You get a like a 2 hope, like the +2 thing.
Nice.
Plus 2 bonus
Got it.
die. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 bonus die.
Nice.
I mean,
Okay.
the price is you're going to become a ring wraith, but hey, who knows? Who cares?
That's later. That's a problem for future Targon.
That's a problem for the future. Targon. Oh man!
Oh, great success.
Yeah, so Targon laughs as he sees his brothers strike this figure. He was feeling slightly more cautious for a second, but then he I'm trying to do this.
I think you clicked on the sword skill and not the actual weapon.
Oh, did I? No, I clicked on the weapon. I think.
Did you target?
It's just on special Oh, hold on. Here we go. I was hitting the wrong button. There.
10 damage.
And he laughs a laugh with just a slightly harsh edge to it. As Camel reels slightly from Baranor's blow, he swings to one side of him and then hacks the back of his left thigh with his long sword. And it rings off the black armor.
Ching! Nice. Kamul raises his sword again, and like fire ripples down it, and a lightning from the sky kind of goes down and hits a sword, and he charges towards Baranor, and he swings at Baranor with the right hand, but alas, it's a feint, and with the left he tries to stab him in the gut with his dagger.
Oof.
So I think I have to hit T, and then let me see if this works. Dagger. Hang on, hatred Numenorians. There you go. Fierce folk. Yes, fierce. Okay, he's gonna spend 2 hate to trigger hatred Numenorians and fierce folk. So he's gonna get a +2 to his attack. So 2 to the right. Is that how it works then? Roll.
Holy shit!
Oh,
Heavy blow.
12 damage.
12 damage. I will apply damages. Oh, you should be wary, it says.
Wary.
What's it look like as he stabs you with this thing?
Yeah, so Baranor turns around to attack again, but in the meantime, Kamul has already turned and he's waiting for Baranor. And as Baranor comes riding at him, he is able to feint and stick the blade between Baranor's armor into the side of his chest, breaking a rib. And tremendous pain.
Yeah, he kind of says to you, he whispers into your ear as he kind of twists the knife. You will be a thrall. Lord Sauron will have your soul, as he already has your kings and your brothers. Flee now across the Anduin, Baranor the Swift, and die in what way seems best to you, for you will forever wander this world like me. That probably doesn't make any sense to you, by the way.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. He's like,
He's just
what the fuck is this guy on about?
Yeah, he's just throwing around wild threats.
Yeah, the blade breaks off in your ribs, by the way.
Yep.
Oh,
As the Return of the King theme rises. Round 2.
Go for it, Targon.
okay. So Targon yells with rage as he sees
My
Cam.
God, you hit him hard.
Targon yells with rage as he sees Camel hit his brother that hard, and he goes to strike him again. This time I'm going to use a hope as well.
So that's a +3.
Yeah. Yes, it is. So I've got hope and 2 others, and
Oh, great success.
No!
and I'm going for another heavy blow. Yeah. So as Camel is taking that second to gloat over Baranor, Targon rides up behind him and strikes a heavy blow against the back of his helm with his sword. And it just rings, clang, as the Numenorian steel hits this black armor.
Baranor
Nice.
turns around, comes charging at Kamul, set wary, taking a hope die, and rolling my sword. Great success. 13
Nice.
damage. Yeah, so basically, just as Targon lands the first blow, like in unison, as if the two brothers are in sync, Baranor comes from the other side of Targon, and as Targon's sword cleaves left to right, Baranor's sword cleaves right to left.
You guys get him. He was flesh, still.
Right.
But as you strike him down, he becomes immaterial, and I'll let you kind of describe it, but the gist is that his spirit kind of is moved to the east. So I'll let you guys kind of roleplay what that looks like cinematically.
Go ahead, Targon.
Okay. So yeah, as he falls, he kind of exhales a long breath that seems almost to end in a laugh, and then a gasp of kind of pain and almost fear, as we then see this sort of wisp emerge from his mouth with his last breath, and he has this almost triumphant look in his eyes that we can see through his helm, as he says, "This is not the end." And then as it starts to leave him, his eyes turn to fear as he seems to have greater realization of what's happening. And Then this wisp slowly comes out of his mouth like he's exhaling on a cold day. But it takes a form of a kind of a wispy, ghostly echo of his mortal form. And then as it hovers over the body, a wind springs from the west, and it seems to just get carried off into the east with... Is it just the wind, or was there a whale?
And as that happens, out of the north gate of the castle, the host of elves and men, led by Celebrimbor, ushers forth. And you hear cries, Velbreth Gilthoniel! For Ost-in-Edhil! Eregian Eternal! And you see Celebrimbor at the head of this host, with his sword raised aloft, a sword forged in Gondolin that glows brilliant blue in the night. And they rush forth, and as Khamul is slain, the host of the east retreats with Celebrimbor at the front. Just I'll let you guys describe what it looks like.
You take this one.
Baranor, you do it, yeah.
And as the drums and the horns of the land start raising their ruckus, raising the sound, Baranor and Targon look at each other. They hear Celebrimbor riding upon them really hard. Khamul is dead. Come on, brother. Come, my king. The hour is now. Let us send the shadow back from where it came. Let the shadow remember this day it lost when it stood up to the house of Nimruzir and King Brimban. For honor, for land.
And Targon looks to him and smiles and says, and for House Nimruzir. Ha 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 ha! And he wheels his horse, and he'll just actually charge off into the fray with the elves.
Yeah, Baranor as well.
And thus it was that the first great battle of the Second Age of Middle-earth happened and was ended. This battle was known in the future as the Dagor Engren, the Battle of Iron and Steel. And in this battle, Khamul, the Shadow of the East, was slain, or so the host of men and elves thought. His spirit was ushered to the west. Formless and nameless, he gathered again in the dark places of Middle-earth. But his damage had been wrought. And the damage of others had been wrought as well. For in the coming months, Baranor found himself afflicted with a grievous injury. And King Brimban and Targon had the lust of battle upon them. If they could push back the host of the East, why could they not take back the East? Why could not their war machine gather strength, ride over the mountains, travel as far as the Sea of Rune, and take back all that the Iron King took from them? And so it was that King Brimban and Targon evermore had the lust of battle upon them. The more they conquered, the more they defeated their enemies, the more they loved it. And the more their love of peace faded and their love of vengeance grew the greater. And as the years passed, Emyn Arnen, well, it became not so different. in the lands of Rune, in the lands of what will become Mordor. And I'll let you guys give the last bit of role play of what happened to Baranor and what happened to King Bramban and Targon. As Celebranborn, thinking victory was at hand, returned to Ost-in-Edhil with a new friend and a craftsman by his side, known as Annatar, one of the Moraquendi, the Dark Elves, that never went to Valinor, who, Annatar said, woke long before the age of men. And in that he was not lying. And I'll let you guys give some more roleplay, and then we'll end this chapter of our campaign.
Want to go first, Tex?
Yeah. So, the years have passed. Baranor has continued to grow old while his king and his brother have remained young and strong. He joined them on many a campaign, every time pushing the shadow and the orc menace further and further back east. But after every battle, Baranor felt a little bit of him was lost. He could not see the same loss in Brimban and Targon. He felt as if the light that was within him, the light of the evening star, was starting to falter, starting to wane. And it was on one such evening where the light was at its weakest, where Baranor was injured grievously, mortally. He fell on that battlefield, and in the dust, the blood, the screams. In the distance, he could see Brimban and Targon fighting side by side, but he could not recognize them anymore. They were not like his brother of old and his friend of old. They were almost apparitions. With that, Baranor loses consciousness, and it is only many days later that he is awake in Emyn Arnen. The sun is setting. He is propped up on his bed, looking out over the ocean. He knows his time has come. He can no longer be by his brother's side and his king's side. He sees the good in what they do, but he also sees the evil, the darkness, that every time they fight, it somehow becomes a part of them. He knows he must leave this place and journey west. Where to, he does not know. Maybe he'll make his way to the Wozes if they are still there. If not, maybe some green pasture that he can call his own and live the last few days of his life in peace. For he feels he has nothing more to give, nothing more to fight for. That's it. Yeah.
Targon is more successful in battle than he ever dreamed possible. Glory in arms seems to follow him wherever he walks. He and King Brimban fight side by side, and they are unstoppable. And the vision of taking back so much of this land that's fallen to evil consumes him. He sees this heroic destiny opening before him, much as he saw one when he was younger, but whereas that was drawn in colours of hope, this is drawn in blood. But it doesn't matter to him. His dreams are darker all the time. And it seems that even as he grows stronger in terms of arms and more terrifying on the battlefield, he feels thinner. Wine, food, laughter, all of it feels hollow to him. And although his mood isn't dark in the same way it was when he first returned to Middle-earth, it does grow darker in a different way. He grows not sullen or solemn, but cruel. He makes fallen enemies suffer. He puts heads on pikes as an example. And he becomes more and more obsessed with carving his way to that great volcano that has dominated his sight for so long. When Baranor falls, Targon's visit to him is short and preoccupied, almost perfunctory. He seems to gauge Baranor's wound, wishes him well, and then almost seems to write him off, and returns to the battlefield immediately. He has no thought anymore of Numenor, or House Nimruzir, or his family. He wishes only conquest and glory. But as time goes by, he slowly loses his humanity. His skin becomes tighter, drier, his flesh gaunt, and his eyes take on a piercing aspect that frightens those who gaze upon him. Until eventually he falls into shadow entirely.
And with that, we end the first chapter of our campaign, The Rings of Power and the Ruin of Numenor. Very good, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.